Welcome to Cascadia Coast News. So, Trump's going to be inaugurated in 4 days. Um, I really feel like God is putting it on my heart that some very terrible things are coming for this nation. Uh, the powers who are behind our government, you can call them the deep state, uh, whatever you want to call them. There is a deep state. I know they want to send their fact checkers out and say that people who believe in a one world government or that they're trying to create a totalitarian system are conspiracy theorists. But no, this is not a conspiracy theory. It is a fact, and they have been trying this for a very long time, and they're actually almost close to being finished. You can look up the 30 by 30 in Agenda 2030 to see what I'm talking about. The 30 by 30 would be for the corporations and deep state to own 30%, to set aside 30% of the land in America for non-use, which means that the land cannot be used at all. It's set aside. It's protected land. 30% of the land in the United States. That is quite a chunk. And then there's the 50 by 50, and this is by 2050. They would like to set aside 50% of American land for under protected circumstances to where it can't be used. So that's half of the land in America. Now, I've been hearing of some very interesting things coming down the pike. I'm going to show you a video here in a minute about from Dr. Peter Hotez, and it's about a coming pandemic. And then also, there's just too many red flags going off at one time. You got the Los Angeles wildfires, which I'm going to be doing a very lengthy video here pretty soon on why it happened and who's to blame for it. And most of you already know it is the Los Angeles legislators that are actually responsible for the Los Angeles wildfires. Not that they caused it. I mean, they could have. They could have had, you know. I'm not going to go down that route right here on YouTube because they'll just ban my video. But the FBI and DHS warn of likely terrorist attacks. In other words, this article is going to go into copycat terrorist attacks likened to what happened in New Orleans. Anyways, this article is from CBS19news.com, and it reads, The Center Square, the Federal Bureau of Investigation and U.S. Department of Homeland Security are warning that a copycat terrorist attack could occur similar to the New Year's Day New Orleans attack. The public service announcement urges Americans to remain vigilant and those living overseas who encounter kidnapping or hostage situations to call a toll-free number or fill out an online form. Now, let me read that again. The public service announcement urges Americans to remain vigilant. And for those living overseas who encounter kidnapping or hostage situations, to call a toll-free number or fill out an online form. They know some things that we don't know because we're not privy to that information. But I assure you, there is something very major coming here in the very near future. I don't know if it's going to happen before the inauguration, and I don't know if it's going to happen a day after, but I do know it's coming. The FBI and DHS are concerned about possible copycat or retaliatory attacks due to the persistent appeal of vehicle ramming as a tactic for aspiring violent extremist attackers. The PSA states, now, okay, so now the danger is people using vehicles. You see, they don't want people using vehicles. They want all gasoline powered cars to be banned. And I think that's by like 2030, if I can recall right, or 2035. They want everybody to have these electric vehicles. Now, I'm not against, you know, uh, some of the green things, like picking up after ourselves on our planet, and not polluting. But these are extremist measures that they are trying to take with the Green New Deal and things of that nature. These people need to be in an insane asylum because they are freaking crazy. Anyways, that's all I'm going to say about that. I just bumped my mic. I'm sorry. But like not even a year ago, they were saying that the danger was guns. It was gun violence. That gun violence is the number one killer of children. I don't think so. I think it's another thing that starts with an A. But I'm not going to go into that in this video. Okay, so previous attackers inspired by foreign terrorist organizations who have conducted vehicle attacks in the United States and abroad have used rented, stolen, and personally owned vehicles, which are easy to acquire. Some have used additional weapons, such as firearms and knives, to attack individuals after the vehicle has stopped. So they're going after everything in this article. They're going after vehicles. They're going after knives, firearms. They don't want you to be protected in any way, shape, or form. They want to have all the protection, and they want to be the ones who tell you what to do. It has been like this for a very long time, but it's just getting out of control. And I'm going to say a word for the people in Washington State. Now, Washington State used to be a very, I mean, it's still a beautiful state, but it used to be a very, very nice state to live in. I'm 41 years old, so I've been around for quite a while. And within the last 12 years, as soon as Greg Weyer was out from governor and Inslee stepped foot into the governor's mansion, this state went to shit. They have literally made Washington the new California. And look at what's happening in California with the wildfires. Mismanaging of forests, of the forest management, mismanaging water resources to where fire hydrants ran dry when they're trying to put out one of the most historic fires in history. And these are all because of woke DEI policies. And I'm telling you now that Washington is headed in the same direction as California, if not worse. So the people in Washington had better wake up, because the signs are all around us. Okay, so this is just crazy. I just cannot even I mean, I knew that some of these things were coming because I've been awake for a very long time. But it's just different when it's actually happening and you're viewing it in real time versus as you would have thought about it in your own mind. I know a lot of us knew that this stuff was coming. Additionally, attackers may attempt to conceal and pre-position improvised explosives, IEDs, to supplement a vehicle attack. Targets have included pedestrians, law enforcement, or military members, and crowded public venues, including festivals and commercial centers, which generally are accessible from roadways. The PSA urges members of the public to remain vigilant about terrorist attacks, report suspicious activity to the local FBI field offices, and call 911 to report emergencies. For U.S. citizens living overseas, the PSA encourages them to report missing persons or individuals taken as hostages by calling the Department of State's Overseas Citizens Services toll-free hotline at 888-407-4747 or complete a crisis intake form. Both agencies were unsuccessful in negotiating the return of American hostages held by Hamas. Hamas. Hostages who are still alive remain in captivity since October 7, 2023. The Biden administration's toll-free hotline and online forum did not help them, critics argue. Now, there has been a ceasefire agreement, and Biden is trying to take credit for it, but I assure you it was not him, because he had over a year to do that, and he did not. So, I say, Mr. Biden, you are a freaking liar once again, and the quicker you're out of office, the better. Islamic terrorist incidents significantly increased under the Biden administration. Yeah, you're damn straight it did. And the greatest number of the U.S. terrorist watch list were apprehended trying to illegally enter the country, the Center Square reported. I guarantee that a lot of terrorists came over the border within the last 4 years with these open border policies, because they literally don't even know who came in. They say it's 15 million. Well, I heard it was more than like 30 million people who came over. If we were doing that to their country, to any other country, if we were doing the same thing, I don't think they'd be allowing it. Terrorist incidents increased nationwide, including an Iranian man in Massachusetts linked to murders of U.S. service members and an ISIS-linked Houston man allegedly planning a 9/11 style terrorist attack, among others. See, they want people afraid of this. They want people panicked, because I got my own opinions on what I think about all of this, but I'm not going to go into them. But anybody with their head out of the sand knows who is responsible for these things. Congressional Republicans demanded answers about terrorist threats, including the House Committee on Homeland Security, which published a report citing more than 50 jihadist cases in 29 states under the Biden administration, the Center Square reported. Foreign jihadist networks and homegrown violent extremists represent a persistent terror threat to America, it said, citing the Biden administration's chaotic Afghanistan withdrawal. You know, they left $80-something billion worth of military equipment over there, which is absolutely crazy. And the spillover effects of the October 7th Hamas terrorist attacks against our ally Israel to the vulnerabilities caused by our wide open borders. I'm a little bit fired up right now because I've been wanting to do this video probably since the first of this month. I've actually known about this for a little bit longer than that. But I honestly didn't know how to even go about making a video like this, warning people of incoming terrorist threats and an incoming pandemic that's about to occur, and who knows what else. And it's all going to happen at the same time, or within days of each other, guaranteed. U.S. Senator Ted Cruz, Republican of Texas, called for greater northern border security due to Hamas members entering from Canada, and sounded the alarm as Jewish Americans. He and others were targeted by pro-Hamas rioters, the Center Square reported. Last year, within a few months, 3 assassination attempts were foiled against Trump, which they all were very fishy, including including by an Iran linked Pakistani and Iranian assassination plot. In September, Cruz warned, "We are living on borrowed time," in an interview with the Center Square. At the time, he said, the U.S. was at greater risk for a major terrorist attack than we have been at any point since September 11th, 2001, because of Biden administration policies. Cruz demanded answers on the incredible lapses in vetting and screening illegals at airports, adding, "It is only a matter of time before another major terrorist attack is likely to occur." And on the scale of 9/11, I mean, I remember plain as day the events that occurred on 9/11 and all the crap that happened afterwards, like the forming of the TSA, DHS, a whole bunch of agencies that I specifically think were made just to violate the rights of American people. That's my own opinion. Months after Cruz's warning, and 2 weeks after the New Orleans attack, the agencies issued the PSA stating, "Due to highly personal nature of radicalization to violence and mobilization to violence, it can be difficult to access specific characteristics indicating the intent of U.S.-based violent extremists to conduct violence." Federal agencies also prohibited a U.S. violent extreme mobilization indicators resource to help the public identify all ideologically motivated U.S.-based violent extremists, and a bystander awareness e-learning resource to understand targeted violence prevention. So that's the article. I'm just saying, I'm warning y'all, if you're not aware of these things, you need to be. And especially if you're out in public, always watch your surroundings, keep your situational awareness as number one when you're out. Okay, so we're going to go read a couple more things. Okay, so this article I ran across on bbcnews.com. What is HMPV and how does it spread? Okay, so there's this HMPV virus going on in China right now, and we saw what happened with COVID. But also we got the avian bird flu going on, and I heard about another variation of COVID. So that's why I'm saying that there's signs of a major pandemic coming. And when I play this video here in a minute, you're going to understand fully why I think these things. Okay. A surge in cases of the flu-like metapneumovirus in China has raised fears of another COVID-style pandemic. And geez, man, I don't want another COVID-style pandemic, and I don't think anybody does. Images of hospitals overrun with masked patients have circulated wildly on social media, but health experts say HMPV is not like COVID and point out it has been around for many years. They say China and other countries are simply experiencing the seasonal increase in HMPV typically seen in winter. What is HMPV? What are the symptoms? And how does it spread? First identified in the Netherlands in 2001, HMPV spreads through direct contact between people or when someone touches a contaminated surface. The virus leads to a mild upper respiratory tract infection for most people. It's usually almost indistinguishable from the flu. Probably because there's no such thing and they're lying about it and actually just is the flu. But before I go any further, adhere to all World Health Organization policies, because if you go against what they say, it's YouTube's policy to censor whoever is trying to go against the WHO. And with that said, moving on. Symptoms for most people include a cough, a fever, and blocked nose. The very young, including children under 2, are most vulnerable to the virus. It also poses a greater risk to those with weakened immune systems, including the elderly and those with advanced cancer, according to the Xu Li Yang, an infectious disease specialist in Singapore. If infected, a small but significant portion of immunocompromised people can develop more severe disease where the lungs are affected with wheezing, breathlessness, and symptoms of croup. Many will require hospital care, with a smaller portion at risk of dying from the infection, Hughes said. Why are HMPV cases rising in China? Like many respiratory infections, HMPV is most active during the late winter and spring. This is because viruses survive better in cold and can pass more easily from one person to another as people spend more time indoors with closed windows. But we saw how that happened with the COVID. It was all year round. So take what they're saying with a grain of damn salt. In northern China, the current HMPV spike coincides with low temperatures that are expected to last until March. Many other countries in the northern hemisphere, including the US, are also experiencing a growth rate in rates of HMPV, said Jacqueline Stevens, an epidemiologist at Flinders University in Australia. While this is concerning, the increased prevalence is likely the normal seasonal increase seen in winter, she said. The World Health Organization, geez, man, I cannot speak tonight. The World Health Organization, WHO, or WHO, is monitoring rates of flu-like illness across the northern hemisphere, and said it has not received any reports of unusual outbreak patterns in China or elsewhere. And didn't they say the same thing with COVID? Anyways, it said Chinese authorities have confirmed that the healthcare system is not overwhelmed, and there have been no emergency declarations or responses to date. Yeah, just like the health system wasn't overwhelmed with COVID. Huh. Is HMPV spreading in the UK? The incidence of HMPV in the UK has risen steadily since October 2024. The UK Health and Security Agency does not publish the number of cases recorded. However, its latest data shows the percentage of people testing positive for the disease rose sharply in the third week of December and remained at a higher level the following week. But the UK HSA says this is completely in line with normal seasonal trends, and the level of disease being seen in GP surgeries and hospitals is expected. Is there a chance of another COVID-like pandemic? Fears of a COVID-style pandemic are overblown, experts say, noting that such events are typically caused by new viruses, which is not the case with HMPV. The disease is already globally present and has been around for decades. This means people across the world have some degree of existing immunity due to previous exposure, Dr. Hughes said. Almost every child will have at least one infection with HMPV by their 5th birthday, and we can expect to go on to have multiple reinfections throughout life, said Paul Hunter, a medical professor at the University of East Anglia in England. I don't think there are currently any signs of a more serious global issue. However, health officials recommend taking sensible precautions to avoid catching HMPV and other respiratory illnesses. So this is what they're going to recommend, which, if you've read the Congress report of COVID, that you'll know wearing a mask does not work. I'll bring that to my channel here very soon. Wearing a mask in crowded places. Avoiding crowds where possible if you are at higher risk for more severe illness. Washing your hands regularly. Disposing of tissues securely. People may also wish to consider getting vaccinated against other respiratory conditions such as the flu. In the UK, pregnant women and adults aged 75 to 79 are advised to get the respiratory syncytial virus vaccine. RSV is a common infection that causes coughs and colds, but can sometimes be serious for babies and older adults. Now, for the whole reason why I wanted to do this video is because of this right here. Okay, so this is Dr. Peter Hotez. I don't know much about him. I didn't know much about Fauci, however you want to say his name, until COVID hit. So I'm going to play this video, and I want to know your thoughts on what you think about all these things going on in our country right now.
Here's the reason why we need to care about this stuff, Nicole, is that we have some big picture stuff coming down the pike starting on January 21st. Mr. Bloomberg mentioned H5N1. That I'm really worried about. It's all over wild birds on the western part of the United States and going up in the north. It's getting into the poultry. We're seeing sporadic human cases, no human-to-human transmission yet, but that could happen. It's in the cattle, it's in the milk, and that's just the beginning. We have another major coronavirus likely brewing in Asia. We've had SARS in 2002, SARS-2, COVID-19 in 2019, and we know these viruses are jumping from bats to people thousands of times a year, but there's still more. We know that we have a big problem with mosquito-transmitted viruses all along the Gulf Coast, where I am here in Texas, so we're expecting dengue and possibly Zika virus coming back, or a Puche virus, maybe even yellow fever. And there's more. Then we have all this sharp rise in vaccine preventable diseases going up because of, in part, the anti-vaccine activism that's so prominent right now. We have a 5-fold rise in pertussis cases, whooping cough over the last year, 15 measles outbreaks this year. We've got polio that's been in the wastewater in New York State. All that's going to come crashing down on January 21st on the Trump administration. We need a really, really good team to be able to handle this.
He says it's all going to come crashing down on January 21st, which is a day after President Trump is inaugurated. The person they did not want to be inaugurated or ever to be president again, the person that they tried to get locked up in prison. Why is he saying things about January 21st? And why is it that there's so many sleeper cells in our country? I'll leave that to y'all to decide on what y'all think about that, but I'd love to hear what you think in the comments. You can like and subscribe to these videos. It really helps my channel out. I'm trying to grow this into an actual news channel. But anyways, this is Cascadia Coast News signing out, and y'all have a good night.